century-old institution is going to AI-generated final on-stage question this year. So AI is really hitting all of us. It's transforming really everything that we do, how we work, how we learn, and how we understand where we live. But it's also raising real questions about trust, jobs, creativity, and what comes next. So this morning isn't about hyper-fear. It's really just about clarity, what's real, what matters for Fort Worth, and how do we shape what comes next instead of just jumping and reacting to it. So before we get started, I'd like to welcome our venue sponsor, Steve Daniel, PhD, Associate Provost of Academic Affairs here at Texas Wesleyan's beautiful but wet campus. Daniel?
Good morning. Well, we are really proud and happy to be sponsoring or hosting the Fort Worth report of Candid Conversations today. This is a topic that is, interestingly enough, I've got another meeting after this assembly down the hall about exactly the same topic, so I don't think it's going to be as much fun as this one, though. So, but anyway, you probably saw the birthday cake downstairs. Texas Wesleyan has been celebrating its 135th birthday, so it makes us the oldest institution of higher learning in Fort Worth. TCU, I believe, is a little bit older, but they didn't start here, so we laid claim to that on August 24th, 1890. And we've been celebrating all week here. So, as you can figure, as with most schools, we are trying to figure out what to do with AI. A little bit, I was talking with Mike earlier, this is a little bit like what happened when the World Wide Web hit about 30 years ago. And I was in the classroom then trying to figure out how to keep students from cheating and how to completely rearrange lesson plans, that type of thing. Well, we're doing the same thing now with AI. It's just more on steroids, I guess, compared to what the web was at the time. So to that end, for instance, in my own classes, I have been having an entire day dedicated to appropriate ethical research on AI. I sort of present them with the whole reporter questions, who, what, where, when, why type thing, have them do the searches, the prompts, just continue to refine the prompts until they get something that's usable. But of course, we have to teach them how to use it ethically. As they used to say on Get Smart, use it for niceness and not evil. So, and then there's another faculty member here who, actually I got the idea from him and have been using it as well, using a platform called Notebook LM to have students sort of do pre-reading on that. And it turns out that their comprehension levels and everything else, they actually do the reading apparently, but they get sort of the outline and know what they're looking for ahead of time. So it's been really helpful in that regard too. University-wide, we've got the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. We call it the CETL. And they have been really diving deep into AI-based pedagogy and teaching methodology. Through the Title III grant, we are establishing an AI collaboration lab, sort of an engagement space where faculty and even students can work with CETL members to develop lesson plans, develop all sorts of resources using AI, once again in an ethical manner. So we're doing that at the university level. We've also had an AI policy in place for about a year. And it focuses once again on the word ethical, but also maintaining privacy concerns, not getting into copyright issues and those types of things. So we're doing all these types of things really full bore here at the university, and are very happy to be hosting an event that is discussing that exact topic and how we can make it work for us instead of against us. So, anyway, once again, welcome to Texas Wesleyan. We're proud to have you here.
Thank you, Stephen. Before we get started, I'd like to share just a few announcements you'll notice up on the screen. I know it doesn't seem possible, but later this month, the Fort Worth Report will be turning 5 years old. We're celebrating at Tulips with live music on Monday, April 20th from 5 to 7. This is a members-only event, and we're expecting a full house. If you would like to attend, see our membership manager, Ella Scott Dean. And our new, like this is just her second week on the job, membership director, Aisha Ganguly. If you will, wave to the crowd so they know where you are. Do we have Aisha and Ella? Oh, okay, so they're at the front. They're taking care of business out there. All right, on our next slide, I certainly want to share a program that we're partnering with United Way of Tarrant County, seated right here in front of me, for the second year for our Stories of Honors Veteran Series that recognizes local veterans for their service and tells their stories. We're now taking nominations for the class of 2026. So if you know of someone, please scan the QR code and tell us about them. Thanks again to United Way, Adam, Deanna, Sean, for your partnership. We really appreciate it. Speaking of nominations, we're always looking for more submissions for our very popular 52 Faces of Community series. It recognizes local unsung heroes making a silent difference in our community, sponsored by our friends at HEB, Central Market, and JPS. You could use just that QR code and nominate someone today. And last but not least, we have our 2026 Eats Foodie Netbooks, which on the screen you'll see $260 in gift certificates to 13 local Fort Worth restaurants, just $100 to support local journalism. You can see Jody, I know she's right there, and Randy right there, and they can take care of you. The certificates expire at the end of June, so you still have 3 months to savor those savings. Then moving on, our membership, again, we've mentioned that a number of times already today, as a nonprofit, community-funded news organization. Membership is a vital part of our sustainability. And now with more than 2,700 members and growing, we can't thank you all enough for your support. If you're a member, I would just ask that you please stand. We'll give you a round of applause. So please stand if you're a member. The energy out in the room here, start clapping. All right, and again, if you, I don't think they're in the room, but Aisha or Ella can take care of you if you need, if you have questions. There we go, Aisha. And I would be remiss if I didn't brag in our newsroom. Last Friday night, the Fort Worth Report news team took home 3 first place awards and 1 second place award in the 2026 North Texas Society of Professional Journalism's First Amendment Awards. Congratulations. Our faith reporter, Marissa Green, won first place for her story, Family Disrupted, Texas Women Shares Husband's Immigration Saga. In business news, government accountability reporters Cecil Lenson and Drew Shaw took first place for White Settlement Road name change, too costly, affected Fort Worth business owners. All of these stories really had tremendous impact, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with them. Another award, first place, government accountability reporter Cecil Lenson. How much do Fort Worth council members spend on travel? Officials aren't sure. Again, another story that I think many of you followed. And then in general news, art and culture, reporter David Moreno and government accountability reporter Cecil Lenson won second place for Fort Worth Police spent $7,000 on a New York trip as part of a Modern's child pornography investigation. So again, congratulations to all those reporters, all of our reporters, managing editor Baggett, and our incredible team of editors that put the Fort Worth Report together for you every day. And one last, I'd like to thank all of our sponsors that made this morning possible. It would just not be possible to do this without their support. North Texas Community Foundation, our series food sponsor. Real Estate Council, a series silver sponsor. United Way of Tarrant County, a series supporting sponsor. Mental Health Connections, a series supporting sponsor. And Texas Christian University, a table sponsor here today. And special thanks to Robot Labs and TMAC for bringing their friends to join us today. Please give them all a round of applause. And if you would like to become a sponsor of events like this, please contact both Jody Newton and Randy. They'll be happy to answer any questions and how you can get involved with our organization. Now, let's get on to AI, the good, the bad, and the future. Our moderator, I'd like to welcome him to the stage. Business editor of the Fort Worth Report, maybe part robot, I'm not sure. Also known as Mr. Fort Worth, Bob on Business, Bob Francis.
Thank you, Mike, and good morning, everyone. We've got a great panel for you. I'll introduce them real quickly and then we'll move right into some presentations from them. Just to my left, your right, Kelly Baggett with the City of Fort Worth Economic Development Department. Ruben Bursch, the Vice President of Research at Texas Christian University. Carlo Capua with Rainwater Charitable Foundation and formerly with the City of Fort Worth. And then we have Adam Powell, the head of United Way of Tarrant County. I want to start with Carlo. I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about how you've currently been using AI and what you're seeing possibly for the future.
Sure thing, Bob. Well, thank you. And first, as panelists, we want to credit the Fort Worth Report. You know, in a world where you can turn on the TV and see people shouting at each other about a topic, the fact that you're convening these conversations and with award-winning journalism, with civility and dignity and respect is really important and important for our community. Can we have a round of applause just for the Fort Worth Report?
Well, they're civil so far. We'll see.
Civil, okay. We're on a roll. How many of you, just to get an idea in the audience, how many of you are using AI weekly? Okay, how many of you use it every day? How many of you use it many, many times during the day? Okay, so we have a user-based audience here. What we wanted to do is, number one, share some insights through this panel, and then number two, give you some practical tools. We realized that like 95% of presentations on AI are boring or over your head. I mean, it really can get very, very theoretical. So we wanted to give you some simple tools to walk away with and be able to start using today. How many of you give presentations as part of your job? Presentations on whatever? Probably most of you here. So one thing is, and we created this graphic. This took about 30 seconds with ChatGPT. And all we said was, hey, give us a cool graphic for today's program. And it came up with that, knowing that we were in Fort Worth. But it was missing one thing, because Fort Worth, we are proud of our cowboys. And so I said, we need to add some more cowboys to this image, but I don't know. That's called a hallucination. So you kind of have to be careful with what you give it and what you get. But remember, every week it seems, and you panelists will probably agree with me, there's more excitement and more fear about artificial intelligence. But we have been here before, and on the next slide you'll see, remember what happened in the 1970s? The calculator came out, and everybody thought, kids are gonna stop being able to do times tables in their heads, and that their math is gonna suffer. And did that happen? Yes, it did actually. It did, but that is a trade-off to having a calculator in your hand. And then in the 90s, you know, the internet came out, everyone got excited, but then scared. Well, we're gonna be in front of our computers, and we're not gonna be outside, we're not gonna get exercise, our social skills are gonna suffer. And did that happen? Yes, thank you, yes, it did. But again, that's a trade-off to having the world at your fingertips. And now, today, we're sort of in the same spot with artificial intelligence. We get excited, then we kind of overcorrect, and then we balance it out and figure out how to live with it every day. And so I wanted to pose a question to you. What percent of parents say they have never had a conversation with their children about AI? 10%? 40% or 60%. Think about that. We'll give you a couple minutes. We'll go through everybody else and we'll reveal the answer here in just a couple minutes.
All right. Kelly, you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with AI and particularly how it impacts the city of Fort Worth, the place where most of us live here?
Yeah, and that's a part I really want to speak about is the city of Fort Worth. We're in economic development, so we come up to it from a business strategic standpoint. I'd like to show a slide next for what's going on in the drone space so we can get to some of the real world applications of AI. On the top left, we have UTARI, that's UTA Research Institute. They just invested about $2.1 million into a netted facility for autonomous and surface and air testing. And a lot of that is based on what BNSF has started many years ago. That's the slide to the right. And you can see that they were ahead of the time using beyond visual line of sight. So in advanced air mobility and the drone space, you know, this is very important to let a drone go beyond sight. And we also have an innovation hub forming downtown with the Texas A&M Fort Worth campus. And this is where the Center for Advanced Aviation Technology is coming about from a federal grant. They're getting $50 million into this. So this sort of atmosphere, along with what's going on in Alliance, we have 4 drone companies. There's Flytrex, Mana, Wing actively delivering from Walmart, doing deliveries with DoorDash as well. And then some other companies like Zipline. So when you're thinking about this in airspace, they are deconflicting airspace. They're using technology like ADS-B, it's detect and avoid, using situational awareness. And a lot of people don't know that this is what is cutting edge in Fort Worth, that we are the proven testing ground for this. On the next slide, we have sort of the autonomous freight that is active in the Alliance area as well. The top one is Baggett, and this is middle mile technology. So they're going from a place in Aledo, a terminal, going all the way to El Paso. Some of them are going to Houston. Baggett has done 60,000 deliveries without incident. So they are beyond the human in the loop. We also have Volvo Autonomous Solutions being driven remotely from their south side. And we have a new company called Torque that is located in Alliance. So these are using AI actively. It's a whole technological stack using vision, LiDAR, all the kinds of technology occurring right here in the MIS. So the next slide we have the Mobility Innovation Zone, and this is the launch point for that. This is a $142 billion impact. There are a lot of international trade, Westport logistics. So think of all the artificial intelligence that's happening in the real world beyond software. So this is a proven ground, testing, using this vision, robotics, advanced manufacturing in this area to bring forward. And lastly, another slide that we have that we support as a city is to look at the strategic investment in the Medical Innovation District. That we have 6 anchor hospitals, everyone from JPS to Baylor Scott and White, and they're all looking at AI for triage, or this is commonly used in hospitals for diagnostics, image segmentation. So think of what is the future going to look like when we get more clinical trials and we actually get a digital twin of the human body and solve cancer. So the biotech firms and connected with Tech Fort Worth and the companies that are looking at AI there, just want to paint the picture of what it looks like and we're building in this innovation flywheel.
And I should point out, and I'll ask this question, and I don't think that there's as large investment, particularly with this mobility innovation zone, anywhere else in the world that's doing this kind of research right there.
Yeah, it's a huge inland import, and just like 400 billion was announced for exports for the foreign trade zone.
And we don't have obviously those trucks driving on the highway. We don't necessarily notice them, and we don't have robot cabs yet at Fort Worth, but I'm sure that's coming fairly soon, don't you think?
Yeah, and we're seeing Waymo and we're seeing Zoox and or Amazon Zoox in Dallas right now. So I think that last mile is still something to solve. So I do see that probably in the next 5 years.
All right, Ruben, with TCU, there's a lot going on at TCU with AI. I wonder if you'd give us an overview of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I didn't realize there was a no boring clause. So I'm the engineer. So I apologize on the front end. So that's my fault. I like the concept of we've been here before. So before I was in academia, I had a career in industry. Spent a lot of time in logistics and supply chain, advanced manufacturing, and things like that. Can you recall what everybody was worried about with take jobs not that long ago? Does anybody remember? We have one out there in the front, actually. Robots. Right, so I like this concept that we've been here before because everyone was panicked about what robots were going to do. From automation, advanced manufacturing, I spent a large part of my career having to explain, I don't want to do anything to take your job. I want to give you a better job. I don't want you doing a repetitive motion task where you're at risk of a musculoskeletal injury. I want you programming the robot so that you don't have to. And then here we are yet again with AI, and everybody's worried about people having their jobs taken. So, but now I'm in academia, vice provost for TCU. We're doing the push to R1. And our first major infrastructure purchase was our AI Squared, the Accelerating Institutional Artificial Intelligence supercomputer. So TCU has its first ever AI high compute supercomputer, and the goal is to distribute that across all faculty and all students. The biggest issues with AI, especially on a broad scale, are reducing those barriers to entry. So, cost, access, training being the big one. Making sure that we have AI not just in every lab, but in every classroom as well. So this was our big $10 million investment partnership with Dell and AWS. And we've had some really positive unintended consequences. And one of them is AI was already happening across all of campus in every college, not just STEM, but in fine arts, liberal arts, the business school. They were actually leading the way. What AI and this new supercomputer did for us is it brought them all together. So this huge interdisciplinary push is happening where you have faculty that maybe wouldn't have even otherwise known about each other across campus, and now they're collaborating on a regular basis. And the benefit is it means their students also are collaborating on a regular basis, because we now have an insertion point for AI in the classroom so that they can get their hands on it as soon as possible. Not to change how the curriculum works, but to understand how AI can work within the curriculum, right? So just like the calculator or the laptop, and then eventually the smartphone in the classroom, there's not really a world where you can force it out. As soon as you say you can't do something, you know how students work, they'll immediately have it. And so you're better off to figure out how do you incorporate it so that they can understand how to use it safely. Another positive unintended consequence is, thanks to our Chancellor Pullen, we've got this innovation challenge where he's challenged all faculty, staff, and students to think about how to use AI from a process optimization standpoint. As an industrial engineer, those are like the sexiest words you can say, process optimization. Like, that's incredible. We have a chancellor that's already on top of it, and the good news is we've already had students and faculty using it. Even within the research office, we've found ways to create our own GPTs that help our staff and our faculty write proposals. So it used to take about 6 hours to review like a federal grant proposal. Now it takes about 2 hours. There's still a human in the loop where you still have to review it, but a 66% increase in productivity while also shaving days off the entire process. And when a faculty reaches out and, hey, can you give me a template? Not only can we give them a template, but we can teach them how to template themselves, while also explaining you still can't use AI to write the whole thing, but you can certainly use it to check everything you write. So we're positioned really well for this R1 push, because what better tool to roll out to everyone such that everyone can immediately use it, because they understand the value, even though they also understand there's responsibility that comes with that value. It's still a very powerful machine, and we have to be careful how we use it.
I think I saw some people out there who write grants suddenly get interested when you say that they could take away some of that work. That's a big pain.
So you just said you saw people get excited at the word grants?
Yeah.
All right.
Good. I'll make this point about TCU. TCU was not considered really at the forefront of research, and certainly wasn't going to be an R1 institution, which is very key to economic development in this area. So that's a big, you've got a big hill to climb, but it looks like you've got a lot of tools to do it. Nonprofits are often thought of as the last type of organizations to implement new technology, because they don't tend to be at the forefront of it, but that's not really the case here. And I'll let Adam Powell with United Way talk about really interesting work that they're doing.
Yeah, and the nonprofit side of me, I have to start with a story, right? So I have a soon-to-be 15-year-old son who is mildly autistic, and he was a preemie and is fairly well adjusted, but he has struggled his entire life with two things. So one is just kind of social interaction, right? His ability to get along with other kids in his age group, those kinds of things. The second is math, and we have invested an ungodly amount of money into, if there is a tutor this side of the Mississippi, we have tried with this kid over the last 13, 14 years. And then about 3-ish years ago, just inexplicably, this kid gets it, right? His grades go from like 68s consistently to like 94s, right? Out of nowhere. It wasn't a tutor, it wasn't me, it wasn't his mom, none of those things. And I'm being completely honest with y'all, completely honest. I thought he was cheating. I I didn't ask, I wanted plausible deniability, it didn't say anything about it. And I go in his room one day, and he has left his cell phone up while he's in the shower. So I just kind of glance at it, and his kid has ChatGPT up. And he has taken all the math equations that presumably his geometry teacher had given him, and is plugging it into ChatGPT, which is now spitting out explanations to him. And every time he spits out one that he doesn't understand, he just adds another prompt and says again, or explain it a different way, right? And this chat goes on for like days, right, in his ChatGPT account. And I tell that story because it really two reasons. One, I think it speaks to just the powerful nature of AI. Right? I'm a reasonably intelligent person that did really, really well in math, and I, and tutors and teachers, could not get this soon-to-be 15-year-old kid to understand this. But his cell phone and ChatGPT, arguably the most simplistic of all AI tools, was able to do that. The second reason, which goes to Carlos' earlier point, is has it also exacerbated his ability to interact socially because he lives on his phone, he lives on social media, he lives on TikTok, some of these things? Absolutely, right? So I think the existential question is, how do we balance those things? How do we extrapolate that powerful nature of artificial intelligence and also help start to mitigate, right, some of the other social issues and challenges that we've got? And if you do a ton of research on AI and really look into it, you'll see a lot of information that comes out of corporate, and you'll see a lot of information that comes out of higher ed, right? And then again, the existential question for us is like, how do we use that power? How do we use our brand, our influence, to make sure that the nonprofit community has access to these tools? So a couple of weeks ago, we launched what's called the United Way Institute, which is a big partnership with Dell Technologies, AT&T is involved, the C. Richardson Foundation, GXA Technologies, and others in tow, to really bring those kind of tools, that kind of technology, that kind of access to the nonprofit community. You mentioned this, oftentimes we're at the back of the bus when it comes to this. We've got, generally speaking, smaller budgets. There's also oftentimes requirements that emanate out of donor grants and agreements that we have to acquiesce to. So thinking about all those things, what is the organization and how can we be the organization that really starts to bring these cutting edge tools, this research, this data, all the things that we need to really help advance and accelerate problem solving. So again, we launched the United Way Institute. It'll be opening April 20th. And are there any nonprofit people in here? Well, okay. Oh, wow. It's like the vast majority of people in here. All right.
Those were the ones that were getting interested when we talked about grants.
There you go. But we'll show just a quick video, which is kind of an intro to the Institute. Just 20 seconds. Is it was made yesterday. That is a true story. And I went to one of our staffers and said, I forgot to tell you this last week, but I'm on this panel, and can you make a quick video, just kind of an intro? And 10 minutes later, I had an email in my inbox like, hey, can you meet me out front at 1 o'clock? Sure thing. So I show up at 1 o'clock, and he's got a drone flying in the building, and it was a whole grandiose event. But this is Victor, this gentleman right here, threw it together. Less than 24 hours. But it's just a preview of the Institute and the incredible work that we'll be doing out of there, partnering with nonprofits. It'll all be free. And again, it'll be how we harness the power of AI, how we harness the power of virtual reality, augmented reality, gaming, all of these things to really accelerate problem solving.
All right, let's you mentioned some practical tools earlier. Let's talk about what are some of the first steps that businesses and organizations can take to begin working with AI. And Ruben, I'd like to start with you, since you have to go back into the industrial world where they were using some of these automation tools early on.
Yeah, happy to kind of pull from two examples from the past that I've kind of used to inform the present in my current job. So before I was in academia, I was the engineering principal for FedEx Express, and my job was to invent most of their new generation of tech. And sometime back in 2014, 2015, we decided we wanted to start the first ever autonomous vehicle research program for, of all things, path planning and optimization at the FedEx tarmac. So the biggest hub of the hub and spoke model for FedEx is in Memphis, as many of you probably know. And a lot of people are already doing on-road autonomy, like Google and some of the others. They had about a 10-year head start and about a $10 billion head start. So we decided to focus on what we called sandbox autonomy because we controlled all the variables at an airport tarmac except for the weather. So we could actually implement autonomy faster. This actually ended up being one of the first flavors of AI. It's been around a really long time and had a lot of different names. At that point, it was machine learning and neural network training, but we were one of the first large organizations to look at using NVIDIA graphics cards. So AI is largely possible thanks to video games because you need to be able to do billions of simple calculations in a very short amount of time. And from a path planning perspective, we needed to plan out about 7 seconds in advance. And the point of this story is, if you're going to implement AI, what problem are you trying to solve? Are you getting AI just for the sake of getting AI? If you know exactly what problem you're going to solve, which again for us was, we weren't looking to remove anybody off those vehicles. We wanted to keep them fully staffed with people. We just didn't want them hitting planes, packages, or people in that order of priority. So that we, because it's very expensive when you hit an aircraft or run over a package. People are expensive too. But the point is that was exactly the problem. And so we were able to work with our 20,000 employees at that location to not panic and have an uprising. Because we knew why we wanted to do it, and that's, I guess, one of the first lessons is as you look to incorporate it, what problem are you solving so that your people know where they fit in the solution for that problem. We were able to incorporate them into all the research and everything we did, and it was not a problem because they all admitted traffic flow was a huge damper on their day, right? So we're just giving them another tool, we're not replacing them. So that's the first lesson learned here at TCU, I would say, is we're not rolling out AI with the expectation that faculty just have to adopt it. They have the right to be concerned about how it's going to impact their curriculum and their field of study because they're the expert in it. But they also, I think, are appreciative to have a tool to figure, and the training and the help and support to understand how to incorporate it. So they understand the mission of R1, and we're going to have to look at education in a different way, especially with new administration and the money's flowing differently, and we just have to be really creative and assertive. The other thing I learned from the past was at my previous institution at Mississippi State University, we ran the largest workforce training program for advanced manufacturing, mechatronics, things like that. AWS decided their 6th headquarters was going to be about 60 miles north of Jackson, Mississippi, because the 2 largest fiber lines intersected, that ran across the country, intersected just north of Jackson. And so the new AWS headquarters was going there. And when Amazon comes in, they come in big, and they wanted the state of Mississippi to be the first coordinated effort for AI training all the way from elementary up through industry and everything in between. And so we had rolled out an advanced manufacturing training program, and we were looking to incorporate elements of AI. You actually have one of the pieces of equipment out front. One of those Fanuc cobots was one of our biggest pushes for automation. The green robot replaces the yellow robot, and that was also a little bit scary for industries that have been around for a while. But we found a common thread in a lot of industry. They were not adopting AI, and it's because the precursor to AI, if you're looking to adopt it, is probably cybersecurity. If you're having an AI discussion without a cyber discussion, you're not going to like the results, and I don't think you're going to find long-standing outcomes that you hoped your ROI would show. So the second takeaway is policy and procedure. Again, really super exciting things for engineers to talk about. But if you don't fully understand the boundary box in which you work, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So why do you need it, and are you secure in using it?
Are there any critical first steps to maintaining that security?
I think a general understanding of the type of data you have and the ability for people to get to it. Most people that have sensitive data are already aware of how to protect it, but do you know how many doorways you're opening into that protected room when you add AI tools? And it's not just using general AI, it's the fact that people have incorporated AI into almost all of their software packages, and they may have done an update release and not even told you. So I think you have to have a firm understanding of every tool using AI so that you can get in front of blocking people trying to enter and get your data. 'Cause, at the end of the day, this is all just a big data discussion. It's less attractive to call it that. But when you're an organization, it's all about your data because that's what is proprietary and what makes you stand apart, so the protection of it.
All right, Adam, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your experiences and what you've seen out there in terms of nonprofits implementing AI.
Yeah, I think one of the most important thing, and I'll give you some very really concrete examples, I think is like anything, just you grow where you're planted, right? Start where you are. And I think the most important piece of it is understanding where you are. If you think about just innovation, so there is an adoption cycle, right, to innovation. And most people, most organizations fall into 1 of 5 categories, right? You've got innovators, which represent about 2 to 3% of the population. These are people that create, these are folks that, the Elon Musk's of the world, right, et cetera. Then you've got early adopters, right, which represent about 10 to 15%, give or take, of the population. These are people that, they don't create stuff, but when things are out there, they are the people that are researching it, trying to figure out how to deploy it, trying to figure out how to use it, right? So think autonomous driving vehicles, like relatively new. There are people that are investing in that. There are people that are trying to figure out on the front end how we use that for a variety of reasons, right? And you got early majority and the late majority, right? Which is the vast majority of the population that as things become more and more ubiquitous, they tend to adopt them. Think Uber, think, social media, some of these kinds of things that are pretty, well established now. And then you got laggards, right? You got people that I'm not setting up a Facebook account ever, right? Because I'm just not, it's not my thing. And I don't mean that pejoratively, they're just people that are okay with that, et cetera. So know where you are on that spectrum, I think is really, really important. And in terms of nonprofits, I think most of us tend to fall in kind of that late majority stage, and I think a lot of that is because, as I mentioned earlier, finite amount of resources. But there are some nonprofits around the country that are doing some really, really incredible work using AI. HopeWorks is one that comes to mind. It's an organization out of Philadelphia. Our team had a chance to visit recently, doing some really, really creative things around using AI for job readiness, certifications, and really helping young people in that kind of 16 to 24 age range achieve livable wages by using AI. Digital Promise is another one based out of DC. They were actually created as an act of Congress, believe it or not, back in 2008, I think it was, and they're DC based, and their entire, kind of mission is really to use these emerging technologies and really how we democratize them. So to make sure that people in areas, in rural areas and communities that typically don't have access to this kind of technology have access to that. So I mean, those are just kind of a few examples. There are others. If you think internationally, there are nonprofits that are using drones right now to deliver blood and things in rural communities across the world. And those are the kinds of things, when we think about kind of those early adopters, that's the space that in a perfect world we would move to, like as nonprofits, right? Is really thinking about, we know autonomous vehicles are out there and we don't have access to them, at least individually right now. But what does that look like? How can we use that to solve some of these really complex problems around food insecurity, as an example, and other things? So there are some really incredible nonprofits out there doing good work, and through the Institute, we'll be doing that research and bringing that to people and figuring out how we extrapolate some of those lessons to more localized nonprofits here.
All right. Carlo, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you think businesses should start working with AI in terms of best practices and that sort of thing. And if you want to reveal the answer to that question, that's fine.
Let's do the answer. Let's go back to the question here. So parents who say they've never had a conversation with their kids about AI, how many people thought 10%? Okay, how many people thought 40%? How many people thought 60%? Majority. Okay, what's the answer? 40%. And a little later in the conversation, I'm going to share some more data about really insightful and counterintuitive trends that we're seeing with kids and how they're using AI. But to your question about businesses, I wonder how many of you all are with an organization that posts regularly on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, probably almost everybody. So I got a wild hair yesterday, like you, and thought, I asked Bob to send me the attendee list for this morning. And so I picked a couple of you and your organizations that did a sample. I stalked your Facebook and Instagram pages to find out what was going on. And so I found 2 examples of how you can do very, very quickly something graphical that you can post on social media that is pretty cool and it's free, right? So let's go to the next one. And let's go one more. Let's go one more ahead. The Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. Is anybody here from the museum? A couple people? Okay. And is anybody here from TCU? All right, so the museum just announced this new exhibit that's in partnership with TCU. It's beautiful. If you haven't gone and see it, go see it. It's really great. So let's go back a slide, Melissa. So I took this image and I went to ChatGPT and I said, create an image of this new museum exhibit and add a TCU theme, make it a social media post appealing to families. So let's see what it generated. I took this image and that's what it made. Like immediately. And now I understand there are some copyright issues with the TCU logo, so TCU folks, don't worry. But it's something as simple as this. I mean, it's a fun graphic, it's free, you didn't need to hire a graphic designer, and it spit this right out. There's one more example I'd like to show. Is there anybody here from Sister Cities? Okay, Kippen, President and CEO, and I saw Cindy, the board chair, Cindy Johnson. So I said, okay, create a social media graphic for Fort Worth Sister Cities International to recruit student ambassadors. Now, student ambassadors are mainly high school students that can travel to any one of our 9 sister cities for this life-changing experience. I did it when I was 15 years old, and it totally changed my life. So I asked it to do this and tailor it for social media, and so let's see what it came up with. All I did was put the logo in, and it came up with that. I mean, look, you've got Fort Worth in the background. It put the Dallas skyline in the background, so I had to admonish ChatGPT for that first, and then correct it. But look how, like, it put a multi-ethnic group of students. It just knew to do that. I didn't tell it to do that. It did that on its own. You can see all of our sister cities are in those round circles in the bottom. It found the website at the bottom. I didn't put any of that in. Like, it found all this by itself. So this is something simple. This is an eye-catching social media ad. It's free, it's simple to use, and ChatGPT, even if you have the free version, you can use it. It just takes a good prompt.
I guess you mentioned that for the free version, but can you talk a little bit about what the different levels are for businesses to sort of invest in?
Yeah, well, you can get an enterprise subscription. It's a little more expensive, and there's a couple different tiers you can use, but I would start with the free. Actually, I'm cheap. You can ask my wife. I'm cheap. Start with the free versions of ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini. There are a lot of free, but it's like the Wild West. People just want your attention. They'll give you stuff for free. Try them all for free, and you can compare, because some are better at images than others, some are better at videos, some do PowerPoint presentations. Try them all for free, and have your staff try them all for free. And then come together and figure out which one works best for your organization, and I would invest in that. And I do have another question. Can we pull the audience with another question?
Sure.
Okay, this is a fun one. What % of students say they see other students at school using AI to cheat? Think about that, and we'll come back with the answer.
Well, I've cheated, I know what the answer is. Kelly, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about AI's impact, what you're seeing on small business and economic development here in the city.
Yeah, Fort Worth is a startup city. We're at a pivotal moment right now. So we see a lot of entrepreneurs using AI. I love that Carlo had that example of, what we recommend is to speed date all the different AIs. Use Gemini, Claude, OpenClaw, ChatGPT. They all have different levels of authority, which is very interesting because, some of them will just like make you feel like you're on cloud 9, and then some of them will actually have, some genuine feedback. So I think that, getting involved with the community, surrounding yourself, you'll find a significant opportunity. In the city, we have an organization called a Decentralized Autonomous Organization, or the DAO, and they are currently having a hackathon starting this month, and it culminates on May 1st and 2nd at UTA Fort Worth. So all of this is to get more software development, and when you surround yourself, you'll open up and expand your capacity. I think everybody should get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is such a pivotal time, and it's a force multiplier. And what we're seeing is there's a lot of legacy systems that are antiquated. Say if you went into 7-Eleven and you could see that some of the vendor machines, they need the sensor ESP32 and connect to the Internet of Things. Surround yourself. I see some people here from the library makerspace. Go 3D print your logo, at your local library. There's just a lot of good things going on. I've seen some small businesses such as Rio's Group. They use Google Earth and use a Gemini embedded so they can search your utilities. You don't have to send someone out to look at the manhole. They can view it from satellite. So there's a lot of different opportunities out there, and it's just a matter of being the system architect and orchestrating your agents. We're in a timeline of agents. I'd say like 22, 23, we're in ChatGPT, had LLMs. Carla and I had a conference back 3 years ago on that. And then 24, 25, we have gone from reasoning and now to here at agents. So I think everybody should look at some of the Claude and the open Claude capabilities and look at how small business can expand there.
Give me the name of that organization, the Dow organization again. What is
It's
that
a
called?
DAO. So they use tokenized assets, and they are sponsoring the hackathon. There are companies such as like Liquid Acres are looking at tokenizing real estate. So they're using the blockchain and cryptocurrency, and now we're waiting to see if the Clarity Act is going to pass the federal government, and that's going to change a lot of things in the blockchain. So the DAO is looking into how citizens can vote, by being a part of this organization. It's a nonprofit. They meet at Create Fort Worth every Wednesday at around noon. So come out. Yeah.
I wonder if you also might explain a little bit about this company that came or is coming to Fort Worth called Atom Industries. You might explain what they're doing.
Oh yeah, Atom Industries is just breaking the waves. They are an R&D company, and we expect to see many spinoffs. So they are investing over $200 million in CapEx in North Fort Worth, and mostly they have these work cells that are prototyping the cloud. So say you're an engineer and you're working remotely, and you could form your prototype in your head and then iterate it and hold it in your hand by Friday. So he's kind of seeing this as like Shenzhen in like one space, but like using this advanced manufacturing by using NVIDIA chips that would otherwise would be like cost prohibitive. So you can be the engineer and work on this remotely. So I think that Atom is gonna, just change business models. If you get a chance, take a tour, get to know what they're doing. They're partnering with local schools as well.
Yeah, it's a very interesting group. I wasn't sure how far along they are. They're actually up and operating.
Yes, they're getting started right now. We took a tour, and what's interesting about some of their jobs. So right now, everybody's thinking, okay, I need to submit my resume. I need a high GPA to get a job at like Atom. But Atom is looking at your GitHub profile. So how many projects have you implemented? John Lohr is the CEO along with Dan Huff, and they've said if you've implemented over 100 GitHub projects, you're hireable. So look at projects that you can work with that are in real time instead of just the resume.
Well, speaking of jobs, this always happens when we talk about technological change. People always say this is going to impact jobs, it's going to take away jobs or get rid of jobs. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about that. And I'll start with Adam, since y'all are obviously very involved in helping people train for jobs and getting them back into the workforce.
Yeah, and I'm still a phrase from Carlo here that I heard him use the other day, and he said that AI is not going to take your job, but somebody that knows how to use AI probably will. And I think that, and I use that because I think in summary, I think that encapsulates, where we're headed as a society, right? Like, I think we can, and I mentioned earlier kind of the adoption cycle, we can run away from it, we can try to avoid it, we can do all the things we want to do, but we're going to have to embrace this, right? It's not going away. We're going to have to figure out how to put some of the ethical guidelines around it that we talked about, whether that's at the nonprofit level, whether it's higher ed, whether it's municipality, et cetera. We're going to figure those things out. But at the end of the day, I would encourage everyone, and particularly for young people, right, that are coming up, that are going to make up the vast majority of the workforce over the next 20, 30 years, to learn to use AI, get comfortable with it, and even more broadly than AI, because I really think about this through the lens of innovation. And it was mentioned earlier, we've been here before, right, with the internet, with social media. The calculator was a little bit before me. I'm a little young. But I can imagine what that must have been like in the 70s. But in all seriousness, I say all that to say, I think this is just another thing we're gonna have to embrace, and over the next 10 to 15 years, it's gonna become, just kind of the status quo for the way we operate from business perspective, from nonprofits, municipalities, for everyone involved.
Yeah, anyone else out there remember the Slide Rule Club in Pasco? No, oh, gosh. Kelly, I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about what types of jobs or what companies are looking for in terms of having some AI experience that are needed out there.
Yeah, and that's part of our strategic plan is to recruit high-wage jobs. Go back to our economic development plan, we're looking at innovation, because what is going to have material impact? And then these are our target industries. And so we're looking at this great convergence right now. So you look at my target industries are life science and transportation innovation. And when you think of this cluster, we have NP materials with rare earth, reshoring, and we have a deal with Wistron, and they have a tax abatement where they're going to hire over 800 workers who are going to start this summer. They're working on NVIDIA chips to work with AI. So just think of how that's going to affect North Fort Worth and the jobs and the talent that's going to be needed there. R&D always brings a high-skilled talent. So when you see this convergence, I think we're just going to see this overlap of different industries and many spin-off companies as well. So I think it's going to be a whole new category of work.
All right, Carlo, how about you?
So once again, I'm going to ignore your question and go back to my slideshow. Let's show
the human element.
Let's go back. Yeah. So and this has a connection to jobs and workforce. So let's go back to the question that I asked about cheating. How many of you thought it was 19%? Okay, how many of you thought 39%? How many of you thought 59%? The answer is 59%. And so here's something interesting about the effect on kids. So our rainwater team was in Denver, Colorado a few weeks ago, and we heard data from an organization called the Rhythm Project. They've done probably the most comprehensive study of how AI is affecting kids as far as how they interact with humans versus AI. And here's what the study said, that kids are turning more to AI than people when they're upset. And we thought, well, why is that? Well, think about it. ChatGPT is on 24/7, accessible anytime at your fingertips. But one of the things they also said is that AI doesn't judge me when I put things in. AI listens to me. AI is encouraging. And the Rhythm Project also told us 28% of youth rarely or never use AI, yet they are the most socially vulnerable. Which is weird, right? Because you think the students who are using AI more are more socially vulnerable. But if I have a choice between a young person going to AI or not having anybody to listen to them, I'll take AI every day of the week. So you think about, it's the students who don't have a human and don't have access to technology or AI that are most socially vulnerable. What does that mean when they grow up? That means they're gonna have a hard time dealing with conflict. Well, guess what? There's conflict in every business, right? You have to know how to have a critical conversation. It's easy to send a text message or an email. It's hard to address an uncomfortable topic in person. But when you don't exercise those muscles, you never develop them. So that's really important, and that's troubling. We also said, so speaking of the cheating, when adults do talk about AI, 71% focus only on academic integrity and cheating, and almost nobody talks about social emotional health. So that will have an impact, that human connection will have an impact in generations, something to watch out for. Back to business, I want to show, Kelly, you mentioned about drone technology. So I brought a video that I shot a couple years ago from so how many of you have had a drone delivery to your house from Walmart? Anybody? Oh, a couple people, okay. This is a thing in Fort Worth, y'all. Walmart has designated Fort Worth as an innovation hub, one of their few innovation hubs. Let me repeat that again. Walmart, the largest retailer in the world, has identified Fort Worth as one of its few innovation hubs, which means they test new technology here in our city before anywhere else in the world.
Actually, let me interrupt you. I think actually they're planning to put one of their sites really just down the street here on Vaughn, close to their Walmart Center over there, just a couple of miles away.
Well, that's great because Walmart, if you're within a 5-mile radius of a Walmart store, you'll get drone delivery options pretty soon. So I took a video. This is a drone dropping a package. You can hit play if you want. Dropping a package. It can take packages of up to 5 pounds, and it will drop it literally in front. This was a demo they did for us, but it'll drop it literally right in front of your home in 30 minutes or less. Think about that. How revolutionary was Amazon Prime when it came out? And then Amazon same day. And if you order something on Walmart, you can get it in like 3 hours, or Uber Eats. But anything from Walmart, 5 pounds or less, in less than 30 minutes. Think about every delivery. Think about that, what that does for local government. Every delivery via drone takes a car off the road, which means less traffic, less accidents, fewer fatalities, less CO2 emissions, less wear and tear on the streets. So all these things have multiplier effects, but be prepared to see the on-demand economy coming a little bit closer to us every day.
Ruben, I wonder if you talk a little bit about what you're seeing, particularly with students and AI.
Yeah, this is a great question. I think we could have had a topic just on this particular question and cover the full hour. So if AI, someone who knows AI is going to take your job, then we're all here because we want TCU students to be the one who gets the job because they know AI, because they've already had it blended and embedded in their classroom experience. Regarding students, I think we have to be aware that there's new job types coming out. We've already talked about prompting. He who prompts best wins in this world, and so regardless of, you don't have to be in a tech field, a STEM degree to know the importance of what prompting will do for you in your career, and so that's why we have to make sure AI is included in as many classrooms as possible. But we have to be careful about telling them what AI can actually do for them from an ROI perspective. So current and future students will need to understand how to safely use AI if we're going to give them this powerful tool. It's just like when you teach someone to drive, it's a very powerful machine that can hurt other people if you're not careful. So we'll have to focus on teaching them about ethically and legally using AI. There's going to have to be a lot of discussions around the knowledge of different types of data and which ones need to be protected, because it's not just secret clear data that's at risk. There's a lot of other types of data that if you accidentally share it, whether you meant to or not, you can go to prison, right? So there's the understanding of with this tool comes a lot of implications. They'll need to understand the concept of trust but verify whenever they use AI. So when you're not the expert of the topic, but you use AI on it, are you knowledgeable enough to go back and do your homework? And have you been trained to be patient enough? Just because it gave you the answer and it wrote something out, was that actually a good answer? I think we're going to have to teach the students to understand that. AI is going to continue to change how most jobs work, good and bad. How jobs work today is going to be different a year from now. They have to understand that. We're going to have instant access to an answer, which allows us to move forward faster, and I think that's good as long as we're asking the right questions. At the same time, how does that change work life? There's going to be a new expectation of what your work looks like in the future, because they're going to expect you to crank out extremely complex solutions much faster, and I think it's going to continue to blur that whole work-life balance, which almost doesn't really exist anymore anyway. But that means you're going to be able to solve really high-powered problems maybe 10 minutes before you go to bed. And is that the world you want to live in? So I think we're going to have to put personal boundaries around that. This is Ruben's opinion, but I think we're at risk. High-performing employees will likely suffer burnout much sooner. So if you're a high-functioning student, there's the reward mechanism of your brain, right? That search and discovery. Some people get addicted to work. I'm one of them, and I'm guilty. It's exciting the fact that you can immediately win with AI when you're working in business and things like that, and that could change how you do your own work. And are you going to burn your own self out, or is the student going to burn themselves out? It's not like in the past where I needed to analyze my data and it could take days, and so I had to be very methodical. Now I can analyze it instantly. It's not like I'm sitting on my hands for the next 2 days. Just be like, all right, I did it. I'm gonna do another thing and another thing. And I think high performing people are gonna be at risk of that. Barriers to entry for certain jobs are now much lower. I love the fact that you have that Fanuc cobot out there. We were able to teach 5th graders how to program a robot after having never seen one between 4 and 8 minutes. So they went from never seeing a robot to they exactly programmed a robot to do a very specific industry task. And that was just with that robot. So again, the barriers to entry for anyone walking off the street are now extremely low. So that means there's going to be a lot more people that have this understanding for a technology job. The problem is the number of people who understand how to fix complicated technologies when they break are going to be far fewer. Just because you knew how to go program that Fanuc robot, are you going to know how to take it apart and fix it when it goes down or when the internet goes off? Our most critical utility that goes down now is the internet. And so when the internet goes down, all these great tools go down with them, and that's going to be a problem. Certain industries will have to fight to justify their existence. So as we talk to students, you have to be really mindful of, are you going down this career path to not have a job because your industry's been disrupted? Or you can be the disruptor, you can be the person that has AI, but less people will be needed for that job. I think the students who are going to best protect themselves are the ones that understand the basic concepts of what it is they're learning. It's like people learned how to do math before they used the calculator. Those people were safe because the calculator can't do everything. AI can't do everything either. And so we have to make sure the student understands the fundamentals and the basics are now more critical than ever. And you will have forever job protection if you take the time to learn it and also learn AI.
You mentioned some of the ethical issues with AI, which is very interesting. We got one question from someone who wrote in asking, they had a client who actually asked that they not use AI in however they were serving their business. And I just wonder if what you see as the big ethical issues that people may face or businesses may face out there.
Well, in that use case, they're immediately in breach of the requested contract if they have Microsoft Enterprise Copilot when they answer their email. So they already immediately have to turn this client down because they've already breached the contract. I think an attorney will likely understand that and will probably try to create a mechanism so that, and that's not going to be the first time that happens, as people request for them to not have access to AI for varying reasons. But the problem is most people, even companies, don't fully understand when AI has been incorporated. Like we're hiring for a few positions and HR had got an upgrade, I believe right before I started at TCU, that does an AI assessment of the resume as compared to the job description. And it does it automatically, and it wasn't even, to my knowledge, I don't know that it was explained in detail that AI had just been incorporated in an HR system. And so I think people are going to have to be really mindful of what tools they're using, and then if there's an AI component to remain ethically compliant, because the biggest risk we see is people just don't know what they don't know, and they're going to think they're doing right, but the tool will do otherwise.
Anyone else want to comment?
They should send a fax next time.
Yeah, I'll just talk about ethics in general. I think we should always ensure the framework for ethical and with a legal responsibility too. And the genie is out of the bottle. We can't put the genie back in. So and I think about companies like Lockheed. They are looking at ethics and when they need to stop. They have they're using agents that are looking at anomalies and flagging them before they take off. But they not only are keeping the human in the loop, they are keeping the human in governance. So it's very important to, elevate the human, not eliminate the human.
All right, we're running up against it in terms of time, but I'd like to ask real quickly if y'all could talk about just one year from now, what do you see different in the world of AI?
I'm still a page from Carlo, and I'm going to kind of answer that question differently. I think we're at an interesting inflection point in terms of just the trajectory of humanity, right? I think we've got two options. We can be thermostats, we can be thermometers, right? By virtue of the fact that everyone is in this room, you at the very least a thermometer. You understand what's happening, you see the temperature in the room, you know what's happening, the way the world is shifting. Or we can be thermostats, right? We can dictate, we can be leaders, we can lean into AI, we can lean into virtual reality, we can lean into some of these innovations. And I think if we do that and do it well, I think we can make Fort Worth and Tarrant County the most innovative city/county in the country.
I'll talk about something very specific briefly. How many of you use wearable technology, like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a Garmin? Okay, so on one of my slides, Melissa, you can see, I think this is gonna be the next big thing. One thing that has changed my life is it monitors your sleep, it tracks your sleep, and it'll tell you how much REM sleep you got, how much deep sleep you got, how much light sleep. And so I'll show you on the next picture. I actually took all my data and I put it in OpenClaw and I said, how did I sleep last night? And it analyzed all my duration, my deep sleep, and it gave me, you can see it gave me advice. About a month ago, I was putting this in and I said, I'm not sleeping well, what am I doing wrong? And it asked me, what supplements, what vitamins are you taking? And I listed it all out. And I said, when are you taking your magnesium? I said, I take it in the morning with all my other vitamins. They said, take your magnesium 2 hours before bedtime, because it will relax your body, it'll make you sleep better. And I sleep an hour more of deep sleep every night because of that one suggestion. You can also use this when you go to your physical. Take this data to your doctor. Your doctor has like 15 minutes to spend with you. You can give them a whole year's worth of data immediately, and they will probably be able to help tweak or diagnose some things that maybe AI didn't see. But I think wearable technology, put that in, paste it into ChatGPT in the morning, how you slept, and it will give you some real advice that will really help your productivity, make you feel better.
Just increase sales of magnesium. Anyone else?
I think vibe coding is going to be very interesting to watch a year from now. It's already becoming a major disruptor in the software development world. A lot of enterprise architects are using AI in the core framework of their software application. But if you use video games as an example, game companies are being roasted if they're having found out that they used AI in any of the creative elements of the generation of the game. At the same time, I don't know that the consumer cares. If the game is fun and it's affordable, people are buying it. So I think a year from now, the whole software industry is going to be completely different because you don't have to have a background in coding. I think intellectual property protection, it's one thing to protect software. It's another thing if AI completely wrote all your software for you. How do you then lean into that? So I think one of the things that I would like to see a year from now is all technologies run on that Gartner hype cycle, right? And AI is actually currently in the trough of disillusionment, meaning that the general surge of excitement is starting to end and people are starting to realize the ROI, and it's not as high as everyone projected. It certainly is beneficial and better than most technologies, so I hope people kind of slow down and just take a breath and maybe look to be much more intentional with it versus throwing it at all your spaghetti at the wall. And then lastly, what I don't want to see goes back to your point of we need to make sure that human stays in the loop. If we start seeing more loops without humans than with humans, then I would be very concerned because it means we're not being as intentional as we should.
And I just want to say process optimization. Now this time next year, I think that AI is going to have to be a core competency. We're going to be collaborating with them. Agents are going to be agents of the service. They're going to be doing tasks for you. I'm very bullish on 3D printing always, and so I think that when we look at additive manufacturing, we have companies like GKN Aerospace, who have the largest titanium metal printer in town. And then the fact that we were talking about Atom earlier, so whatever you think in your head, that you get to hold that model and your iteration in your hand. So I'm thinking more of the physical AI next year, as we're already seeing humanoid robotics. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this year is primitive compared to next year.
Well, we're right up against it, but y'all have been a great audience sitting there listening and learning a lot. So I want to thank our panel here for being up here and talking about AI all morning. Thank you. And we have our Candid Conversations about every couple of months, and we'll have another one. We haven't announced it yet, the actual date, but it will be about the mayor's green space initiative. So watch for that. Also, we'll have a recap of this panel and tomorrow. And Joseph is out there somewhere who's going to be writing that story. If you have a good AI story you'd like to tell him, let him know. All right. Thank you, panel. Thanks, everyone.